Hi everybody, and I hope you're having a really great day wherever you are, whenever you're watching this. So I thought I was going to do a remake, I don't know, of a previous series I've done here on YouTube that I called One Paper Pad, where I took one paper pad, went through it and showed how to use like most of it. I have two new paper pads that I got off on a sale, but they are new. So I have the Flourish one, and then I also got the Pick Me Up. And I thought I was going to share with you what I think about when I get them and how I plan to use them, and what's the difference, because one of them have repeats of all the designs, and one that does not have repeats of all of the designs, but it also has a gold foil, and how that plays in and how I plan to use them. So if you're interested, I hope this video will give you some inspiration, and let's get going. Okay, so here we are, and I have two paper pads. I have the Flourish 12x12 paper pad from Maggie Holmes Crate Paper, and we have 48 papers in this paper pad, and there are 24 designs, so we get two of each. And this, on the other hand, it's the Pick Me Up, and it's designed by Paige Evans for Pink Paisley, and they are both by American Craft. In this one you get 36 sheets, and some of them repeats and some of them don't, and you also get some gold foil. Now, the reason why I chose to go like side-by-side comparison, so in my previous one paper pad video I took one paper pad and I went whole hog on that one, but I think it's really interesting in having the two, because there are two different types of paper pad. You have the one where you have the same designs in just repeats, and then you have the one with different designs and then also the specialty effect, and how different they are and how that impacts and how you're going to work with them. Now, what I'm planning to do is just go through these paper pads and tell you what I think about them when I look through them, and I hope that can get some inspiration. So I think I'm going to start with the Flourish paper pad, just for the reason Viola is here too, and she's sleeping and she started snoring. I don't know if that's an age thing. What's good about this kind of paper pad when you have 48 papers, 48 papers, is that you get 24 designs and you get two of each. So in a sense you're safe. If you cut one paper up and you're like, oh gosh, that didn't work out, you have another sheet. What I also like about the paper pads, and what many people don't like about them, is that they're not very thick. I mean, they're good weight to the paper, and I don't think they're too thin for anything. But what I like about them, because I like to make these kind of books, and I like that they're not too thick. So, and also I'm working quite a lot in traveler's notebooks, and I like that these papers are not that thick, so I won't bulk up my book too much. So I think we should just go through this paper pad, and I will just tell you what I would do without cutting out, because that will take forever. You don't want to watch me do that. So if I just start by looking at this pad, I can see all the designs here on the cover, and what's really nice is that if you just take and cut here, you can use this on your design. I mean, on your paper or on your project, it would be a really cool, I think this is about 8 inches, and just fold that in half and you have like a cover for a mini album or something. I think that's really cool. Or if you like backing cut files and that kind of stuff, you have a lot of pattern here that really shrink down, and I think that's really nice to use. Like this little peacock over here, I think that's really nice to use. Okay, opening up the paper pad, we start with a cut apart sheet. And I think it sort of tells yourself it's a cut apart sheet. Easy to cut up and just use. Now, when I decide to work with a paper pad like this one or another one, what I do is I start by looking through and I pull out all the papers that I think I'm going to cut apart, and then I cut them apart and then I keep it with the pad. Because when I decide to make something with this pad, I don't want to sit and fussy cut out 100 butterflies. I'm not going to do that anyway, but doing that in a separate stage makes it a lot easier when I actually come, because then it feels like I have papers and I have die cuts and I have the embellishments all already. So that's my first tip, is that if you're going to cut, fussy cut or detail cut, or whatever you want to call it, out of a paper pad, then do that right away. And that's what's good with this, because it has 24 papers or 24 designs that you can take one, cut it apart, and then use the other one as a background or something. So this one I would just take and cut apart. This one I think is a very nice neutral background. It looks like we have some book pages and then some gold paint over it. What you can do is, for once in my life, I was going to say, but I very rarely buy the chipboard sheet, is that, or any form of embellishment for the collection, is look at what they have here. Do you like what you can find on the chipboard, on the stickers, in the die cuts, whatever? Look at what they have there. Do you like what you see here? Then take the inspiration from here. Now on this one I can see that they have like a tag with this pattern. I know that on the sticker sheet they have a heart with this pattern, and if I like that, I can use the corresponding paper designs to do that. So if I really like that tag with the black reinforcers, I would cut out tags from this paper and put black reinforcers. Here we have a floral that's a very intricate floral, but like overlaid floral, which makes it a bit trickier to cut out. Now, I think it's a nice background because it has a pretty solid with the blue and the green. But what I think would be really fun here, if you want to use it as a 12 by 12 for a design, is to take an X-Acto knife and cut out all the pink areas and then layer something underneath. It could be a black to make it a bit more moody, it could be white to really brighten it up. Put a metallic underneath, or glitter paper or something, to make a whole different impact with this paper. And it doesn't matter that it's not like a full heavyweight paper that you buy, because you're going to back it. And that, yeah, it will take some time and cut that out, but I think it's pretty fun. This paper, I think we all agree that it would be a really cool paper to cut out, and you get a bunch of butterflies and also little bugs here. I think that could be really, really cool to cut out, and you get a lot of elements to use on your paper or on your pages. This one I think I would just use as is for a background. I love the black and white. I'm going to be honest, not my favorite pattern, but it's a pretty solid pattern, and I think it works well as a background. Same thing here, works as a background, but you can also fussy cut all the lemons out, or if you don't like the lemons, I would still fussy cut out the leaves, because I love leaves. Same thing here, you can, if you want to, cut out the white parts and layer some other paper underneath to get a different feel, so a black or a metallic or something. This one is amazing. I love green and I like dark backgrounds, so this one just, I wouldn't change a thing. What you can do, however, if you have this kind of paper that you really like, is to enhance the paper. And by that I mean take metallic watercolor, take you can take Heidi Shine if you have that, that's metallic, or enamel dots, or stickles or something, and pick out elements on this paper. That way you can get like a specialty paper, like we had years ago. We had a lot of glitter paper, and take out, let's say on this flower you have like the center of the flower. I would just put a little dollop of glitter on that and then carry it out and pick one element and then add it to that, and just adding that small detail will make a huge impact on the page. Then we come to the peacocks, and honestly I'm not really sure when I'm going to use this kind of paper, but it's a really cool paper, and obviously you can fussy cut out the peacock. I think that would be easier. It's very intricate with all of these white flowers, but hey, why not? Then we have this very, very big blue flower, and here's once again the problem with these flowers. They're very, very pretty, and my first instinct is to cut them out. What the problem is here is that they pretty much overlap each other. So we have this big one, but then we have the leaves tucking in on this flower, and and we have this flower overlapping the next flower. So you can, but then you lose quite a lot of the flowers because they overlap each other. But it doesn't really matter, because if you're going to tuck the flowers underneath, you don't need the whole flower. So but yeah, I like this as it is because I like white and blue patterns. And if you feel like it's too blue, then I would just go over like a layer with like gesso or something, because if you look in the background, you have white, but you have some little blue specks, so it looks like it has been painted already, and I think that can just enhance that effect. Another sheet that would be perfect just to cut out, we have little flower elements, we have little places to add some journaling, we have tickets, a lot of this, and this would make a huge in your ephemera. And what I would do maybe is to leave as many of them intact, so leaving this intact and have like strips of them, and I think that's really fun to tack in. Yeah, what do you do with this paper? Well, you can fussy cut them out, obviously. Yeah, I really like the background here. We have some pink grid and then some black polka dots, and I think that would be it's a really fun background. The birds, I guess I would cut them out, but yeah, they are very random, I have to say. A very nice floral with that sort of painted background, very, very pretty. Cut them out, leave them as it is. It's a very strong paper. Now, when I use papers, or I hardly ever do 12 by 12 designs, very rarely, but I think this is a very pretty paper. If you were going to do a layout on this one, what I would recommend, or what I would do, is pick a corner, so placing my photo whatever that photo would fit. Say I would place my photo here, then I would gesso or put vellum or something to mute that down, put my photo here and make a very small cluster with the title, and then just let this pattern be, because this pattern, you can't really like excuse it, it has to be its own. But what I do quite a lot is, like I said, small books and travelers notebooks, and that this thinner paper is perfect for that. And when you cut that up into 11 by 21, you don't get that much of the pattern, and it works really well. Very, very pretty, like a jewel green here. And what I would do in this case, what I think would be really fun for a 12 by 12, well actually 2 pages I feel, is to use what I have here and take the inspiration from here. And what I would do is this shape right here, you can see that, I would cut that out. And then I would layer black, I think, or white underneath, and having this shape black or white depending on what paper, build my layout in here, and then I would make one page with this shape on black or white, and build my page on that, which would be perfect if you like to make 2-page spreads, because you have different designs on them but they still coordinate because you're using the same paper, but you're using the shape of the paper, making that more dynamic. This paper I think is amazing. I would fussy cut this out and leaving like a black border around it. Yeah, I think that was I also think this paper would be perfect for something to do with cooking, or summer, or gardening, or springtime. Moving on to this one I think is amazing. It looks like stone. It is so pretty, and when I have paper like this, is very interesting. Obviously I would cut it up and use it as a background, or use the whole thing as a background, but I also think it's fun to cut out, because even though it's a pretty big pattern in this scale, if I cut a small piece I will still get a lot of this fun things going on. So I'm cutting out tags, tabs, circles, whatever shapes that you use, I would use one of these for that. This paper I think is just divine with all the flowers like taped to the page. I would say fussy cut it is fun, or just use it as it is. I think it's a very, very pretty background. Another big bold flower is the same as that blue one, but we have a different color here. I think this one is a bit easier to cut out because it's more clearly defined where all the elements are. And if you like using big flowers on your page, then cut them out. But yeah, I think for me this is a bit too bold, but with the contrasting colors. When it was just blue and white, it was a bit more subtle because you just had the two colors. But here you have the light green and you have the very dark green, and then you have yellow, and you also have some bit of pink. So yeah, fun. Here we have some black paper. I love black papers with some white cameras. Very easy to cut out and just use. And I think, I mean, a camera you can pretty much use on every page because it's a camera. A very pretty paper, this one with a peacock, and it sort of feels like you should frame it. I don't know if I would make a page on this one. In that case, I would do the same as I would do on the like big floral piece and choose a spot like up here, I think, or even down here with a very small photo, and make a very tight cluster. So say I'm putting a photo here because the peacock almost looks like this direction. Put a photo here, add some vellum or doilies or tissue paper or whatever, making it pretty light, adding a title and then a small amount of journaling, but keeping it to this place and making this paper just let it be what it is. This one I think is pretty fun. We have this sort of scallop shapes, or almost like shells. And what I would do is either just let it be, or making a fun element on a page and cut off there the shapes here and having that sort of scallop. You can flip it around like this and you get sort of like a theater curtain effect. I think that would be really fun too. Next page we have the houses, and I mean, cut them out. They are really pretty. We have some elements on the chipboard sheet. We have here. We have some houses here. So cut them out maybe. Same thing here. We have that sort of scallop looking border, and either just use it as it is or like be inspired by the shapes of the paper. Beautiful, beautiful, rich pattern with the little hummingbirds. I think I would just use it as it is. Maybe go in and accent some details like the birds or some of the flowers with some metallic paint, stickles, anything really. And then the paper pad starts over with a design. So if you have decided to tear out 10 sheets of paper here to cut out, you still have the designs left in the paper pad. So that is how I would use this one, keeping in mind that I do quite a lot of traveler's notebooks and I just want a panel of paper for one side. But I hope I have given you some ideas on using it on 12 by 12 pages. Now, for this paper pad, it's a bit different. And why it's different is we don't have the same repeats. So what I do is, if I look at something I feel like this I want to cut out, I would go through and look through the paper pad. Is it worth me cutting it up? Would I use it more as cut up? Or do I have an extra sheet of it? Okay, so starting out, we have the cut apart sheet from the collection, but here with a lot of gold accent. And what I would do is I would just start cutting this apart because I would not use it as a whole sheet. And I would cut these up and I would cut the strips out, and then little cards here. Then we have this really rich floral, and I think it's very, very cool. Now I know that this floral repeats, so I have it here. And I would cut this out and then maybe use this one as a background, or have the option of using it as a background with this cutout. We have a very pretty yellow that has a bit of a lighter tone up here and a bit darker down here, and just a good yellow. We all need a good yellow in our life, I feel. Then we have this with all these smileys and like text messages and everything, and I think it could go either way. I think you get a lot of use out of it. If you like emojis and like scrapping with that, I think cut it up and you would use it quite a lot and get a lot of use out of this. If you don't, then use it as a background and like do a bit of a cluster. I think that's the way to go when you have a really busy pattern and you want to really showcase your paper, is to focus your embellishment and focus your photo and journaling to one place and let the paper just be. A very pretty page here. Use it as a background. I think it's pretty fun with all the different colors. What you also could do if you want to have, when I do scrapbook like big, I like to go with a white piece of paper, and what I would do is take like an icon or an element like a flower or butterfly or star or whatever, and cut out butterflies from the different, and then lay them on the paper in the colored in the colors that they are here, and that way you get some really fun and cool elements from one piece of paper. Okay, next paper we have here are, we have some color blocks and then some white circles on top. A fun background to use or to cut apart. I think it's quite busy for just one page, but it's a pretty fun to use like in a mini book or in a traveler's notebook, because when you cut it down you get a bit more, just fewer colors, because there's a lot of colors here. Or just cut it apart, because here you have a paper where you have pretty much every color of the collection, and that's pretty good to have if you want to have just small elements. So if you like to use tiny hearts on your page, then take out a tiny heart punch and punch out the hearts in the different colors, and then you have some icons or some elements that you can use on every page where you get all of the colors that you want. Here we have a paper that's very, very pretty, but it's one of those specialty papers. Now, I know that this one does not repeat, and it also have the gold foil, which means that I would think a bit more on how I would use it, because the gold foil is a bit more precious, to me anyway. What I would use this for, I think I would use it either cutting it up as a panel for my notebook. I think I would use it as a layer if I were going to use a big page. Or just use it if I were going to do like one of these books, I would just put it in and then fold it and have that as paper. But it's so this one is pretty fun because you get quite a lot. It's a solid pattern. It's a pattern that repeats, so it's quite easy to work with. Now here we have a row of hearts that overlap, so where the hearts overlap they change the colors a bit. I know this paper does repeat. That means I would be a bit more creative, a bit more daring with this pattern, because I know I can be. One way I think it would be really fun is cutting the strips of the hearts and like making them different length. So one short length and then a longer length, and then keeping that and making that like a thing throughout on the page, popping up. What you also can do is take the heart and then just cut half of it and then backing with another paper. So yeah, this is a pretty fun where you can really experiment with the paper. Here we have a lovely shade of turquoise with sailboats, and I think I would just use this for if I needed this type of color. I'm not going to use it for the boats because I never go on boats. A very pretty pattern here. We have some florals, we have some moth, and we have some gold dots. You can obviously cut out the different elements here, but I think I would use it more. I would be more likely to use it as a full pattern. I think it's a very fun pattern with the little gold dots, and I would gladly use this whole as a background in any kind of format, really. Here we have a perfect paper. It's a perfect background. It's light, it has a very slight peach color. We have some white lines, perfect for writing, ledger. This paper I think is perfect to cut into tags to write as journaling. It's perfect for a background in any format, really. So yeah, I think this paper is, and you get 2 of them, so I think that's really fun. So if I were going to do layouts, like 12 by 12 layouts, I would take one of these, make that as a background, and then take the other sheet, cut it up into tags or labels or something, because I think I would use it quite a lot as shapes or as journaling, or just cut it up into like 3x4 cards or whatever you're more likely to use. But I think this is a very useful paper. This paper also repeats. I think it's a bit harder or trickier to use because we have these sort of color blotches. And I think the same thing here. I would be more likely to use it if it were cut up, because I think all of these colors, it doesn't really go, I think it's a bit odd, and then it has the big white shapes in the middle. So I would use it, cut it up, or use like different colors. So if I wanted some navy blue on my page, I would go here and I would cut out a circle or a butterfly or whatever shape I would use, or if I wanted some red or some pink. Here we have some sheet with melons. We have some gold foil, makes it very fun. Yeah, I think I would save this for summer, where, I mean, here in our family anyway, we eat quite a lot of melon in the summer. So I think that would be, I don't think I would actually have to make a page about melons for this to apply. Just summer would be close enough. Or the beach or something is a very fun, happy pattern. Or as like a birthday, because it's just a happy pattern, really. A nice background pattern again, and a very lovely color. I think it's really fun to see how rich the colors does appear in the paper pads. Years ago, there were a very big difference in the colors between the single sheets and then the loose sheets, but I think it's coming pretty close. And actually, talking about that, I do have one single sheet from this collection. And it's this one, it's number 23, and I should actually say that it's here. So I'm just going to put it here so we can do a comparison when we come to that. We have some pink with polka dots, big polka dots to small polka dots. Yeah, a nice background page. Here we have frames in gold. I think in the loose paper or the single sheets of paper, these frames are different colors. I think this pattern does not repeat, so that would mean I would think a bit extra before I would use this paper. I see two options that are very clear to me anyway, and that one is using this whole sheet as a background. Cutting out the inner frames, backing it with the photos, backing it with pattern paper, putting elements, adding journaling, having that as one sheet, starting my page on this one. Or I would cut them out, cut the actual frames out, and I think that will be more, for me, more worth, and it doesn't mean I have to use the frame just with this collection, because I think these frames can go with any collection, and I think that's a high value for me anyway when I look through these paper pads. This, how well does the collection work together? That's a big value. How well does that collection work with the other stuff I have in my stash? That's an even higher value. This paper is worth quite a lot in that way. It has gold foil, which means it's a bit special. It makes a pretty element on the page, and if it's on a scrapbook page or in a traveler's notebook or whatever. And there's a lot of like full frames here. And also, if you look into the Pick Me Up ephemera pack, you get 40 pieces, and you get quite a lot of different. Now I know in this collection there's a separate pack of just for journaling, but if you look at here, you get 40 pieces. Now, how many pieces can you cut out from one paper pad? In this one, in the Flourish collection, which is quite a lot more paper, you can cut up a bunch of pieces to make your own pack. Well, and then you say, well, these are a bit heavier in weight. Yes, they are a bit heavier in weight than this paper. Does it really matter? I don't really think so. This one has gold foil. Yeah. So that's the pieces here. I have a lot of gold foil here. Now, of course, it's a bit more special, but if you only can afford to buy a paper pad, what I want to show you and tell you is that you're not going to just have paper. You can make your own pack with pretty gold foil pieces, especially if you have this one. And in the other Flourish collection, where I showed you, it does not have gold foil in this one. It's just plain paper, but it doesn't stop you from adding. If you have a glue pen and then a piece of foil, you can foil the paper your own. You can add glitter, you can add metallic paint, you can change that, and that will make it even more your own. and make it a bit more creative. Okay, that was the ramble about that. So for me, I would definitely cut these out because I think that is the best value for me. Same thing here, I get 2 pieces of this paper. I think I love cutting, so I think I would definitely take 1 piece of this and just cut it out, because I think that would be really fun. And there are a ton of these little butterfly moth things, and if I look at the back side of this pack, I see 1 and I see 2. So yeah. Okay, so now we come to this very pretty ombre paper, and I have my 23 papers, so that this is a B side, and I'm just going to put them a bit side to side here so you can see the color comparison, and it's very, very similar. They're a bit more vibrant in this single sheet, which I think we have to expect because this is a bit heavier, a bit better quality, but on the whole is very close. So yeah, the only thing I'm a bit sad is I wish I had this paper in the pad too, but that's why I bought the single sheet. So I mean, 1 piece of paper, if there's a special pieces of paper that you really like, then just buy those. You don't need to buy the whole collection if you buy the paper pad. I think that's really good. And especially with a paper pad like this collection, or if we look at the box of crayon with Jamal, where the paper pad is so much different from the loose sheets of paper, you're really making, it is actually really worth buying the paper pad. This one I think is like a huge value paper because you get a lot of these tags or tabs, or you can use them as a lot. They're very easy shapes to cut out. What I would make sure is I would punch out the holes before I put them away so they are ready to use. And what's really fun here, because the loose sheet or the single sheet version of this paper does not have the gold foil, so you get a bit of a bonus here, and they are very, very pretty papers here. Now we have restarted here and we are back on this paper that, like I said, you can either cut out or use, but you have the option because you can use it twice. Now if you're going to fussy cut the flowers, I think you're not going to use all of these flowers on 1 page, which means that the value increases because you can use 1 paper on many pages. You get the yellow once again. And then instead of the speech bubbles or the emojis, you get this geometric gold pattern. Very easy to use because it's very geometric, and I think you can use it on pretty much anything. Very, very pretty. The colored stripes you get again, and here you can make the choice, cut it up, use it as a background, but you have the choice because you can use it twice. The same with this one. And then let's see what was supposed to be behind here. Nope. I think it was the hearts. No, it was the dots, the semicircle gold heart dots here. But now we have a peach with tiny speckles of gold, very pretty. And once again, this is a paper that would work in any collection really. We have this very soft peachy color, matches my sweater perfectly. I think this would work really well in any collection. Once again, the hearts, so you can decide, you can be a bit more adventurous when you have 2 of the sheets. Same with here. And also, just want to point out, if you like making mini albums and that kind of stuff, and having several pieces of 1 paper means that you can use that for like backing all of the photos for a mini album, or using it as a base for the mini album, because you have several of the same paper. And here we have, okay, so before we had the purple flower with the little moth paper. Now we have a navy with a gold grid, very pretty, easy to use. Once again, we have that very useful ledger paper, and we have the color swatch paper, and then we, instead of the melon paper, we have the ombre paper, so very, very light peach to pink with tiny hearts, also very easy to use in any collection. And we have the blue paper with little plus signs, and we have the pink with the circles that get smaller. Instead of the frames, we get this paper with a lot of gold foil and a lot of geometric shapes. Now, I think this would be really fun as a background, but you can also obviously cut out the different elements. but I think this paper really comes to its own just being as it is. And then you have the moth paper again, where you can be a bit more adventurous, because you have the same thing with this beautiful, beautiful color. I love this color. So yeah, that is the paper pads and how I would use them, and or my thinking behind how I would use them. And if I were to get, now I got these on sale, so I'm really happy, because it's really hard to find these kind of stuff here in Sweden. So I just picked up everything I could. But I have been known to just buy a paper pad from a collection, because that is pretty much either all that I could afford or all I could get my hands on, which is pretty much the same here. And what I like to do is just go through and see how much value I can get out of this. Now, the value is obviously the paper, but can the value increase by how I use the paper? Like cutting up the different pieces, and instead of buying this pack, can I get more out of actually just cutting up the papers I already have in the pad? And for some, it doesn't matter how much you can cut out of the paper, because it's not that worth the time that they spend, and they would rather buy the embellishments coming with the pack, and I totally get that. But for me, I really like sitting down with a pair of scissors and just cutting out. I have started here cutting out some flowers. I think that's really fun. Usually watch a movie or listening to a book or something. For me, that is relaxation, and that has a value for me too, sitting and just doing that. For others, that has no value and just waste of time, and then you should pick this up, because these are really pretty too and get a lot of it. So I think you need to take that in consideration, but for me, this is what I see when I see a paper pad. I'm not just seeing the papers, I see what I can do with them, how I can make pages and how I can use them. So I hope you have liked this video. It's gone on forever. I'm hoping it has given you some inspiration. If you're more interested in seeing how I use a whole pad of these, then check out the one paper pad video playlist. I will link that down below if you are interested, and I highly recommend it. I've got some really great feedback on that. And yeah, I hope to see you soon.